I am Bobby, 30 years old and about to marry the love of my life, Logan. Most brides worry about rain or drunk relatives, but I had a bigger problem, my own sister Allison. Our relationship has always been complicated, filled with rivalry and tension. The night before my wedding, I discovered her ultimate betrayal when I unzipped my dress bag. But what Allison never expected was that I had learned to outsmart her years ago. Where are you watching from today? Drop a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more true stories like mine. Growing up with Allison, who is 3 years younger than me, was never easy. From the moment my parents brought her home from the hospital, our relationship was defined by competition. As a child, I tried to be the perfect big sister. I shared my toys, included her in games, and defended her against neighborhood bullies. But Allison seemed determined to see me as her rival rather than her ally. The pattern of sibling rivalry established itself early. When I was 7 and Allison was 4, our parents threw me a birthday party with a princess theme. I was ecstatic, twirling in my new dress, feeling special for one day. Minutes before my friends arrived, I found Allison in the kitchen, my birthday cake smashed beyond recognition. She claimed it was an accident, but the small smile she tried to hide told a different story. This became a recurring theme throughout our childhood. My science project mysteriously broke the night before the fair. My diary would disappear only to reappear with pages torn out. My favorite clothes would suddenly have stains or tears. Each time Allison would feign innocence, and often our parents would believe her, because she was younger and seemed so sweet to everyone outside our home. By high school, I had learned to protect my belongings and keep my achievements quiet around Allison. I stopped bringing friends home and maintained a careful distance from my sister. Our relationship evolved into a Cold War with occasional truces during holidays or family emergencies. After college, I moved to Boston while Allison stayed in our hometown of Portland. The distance helped. Our interactions became limited to holiday gatherings and occasional family events. I began to hope that adulthood would mellow our rivalry. There were moments when it seemed possible we might develop a normal relationship. A weekend visit where we actually laughed together. A phone call where she genuinely congratulated me on a promotion. Small glimpses of what might be possible. Then I met Logan at a friend's wedding 3 years ago. From our first conversation, I felt a connection unlike anything I had experienced before. He was thoughtful, intelligent, and made me laugh until my sides hurt. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. Logan understood me in ways no one else ever had, including my complicated feelings about my sister. The proposal came during a surprise weekend trip to Napa Valley. Logan had arranged a private sunrise hot air balloon ride over the vineyards. As we floated above the morning mist, he got down on one knee in the tiny basket and presented a vintage emerald ring that had belonged to his grandmother. I cried so hard I could barely say yes. When we announced our engagement to my family, I was surprised by Allison's reaction. She seemed genuinely happy for me, offering enthusiastic congratulations and immediately volunteering to help with wedding preparations. Part of me was suspicious, but another part desperately wanted to believe this could be a turning point in our relationship. The first few months of wedding planning went surprisingly well. Allison helped research venues, joined me for cake tastings, and even created a beautiful wedding website. I began to lower my guard, thinking perhaps my sister had finally outgrown her jealousy. Maybe sharing this important life event could heal the wounds of our childhood. Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signs. The subtle comments about whether Logan and I would last. The backhanded compliments about my choice of venue. The suggestions that always seemed helpful on the surface but would have made the wedding less special if I had followed them. What really accelerated the change in Allison was her breakup with Marcus, her boyfriend of 2 years, just 3 months before my wedding. While she tried to play it off as mutual, and for the best I could see, she was devastated. And as her pain increased, so did her resentment toward my happiness. Despite the resurfacing tension, I made the decision to ask Allison to be my maid of honor. My best friend Jessica questioned this choice, reminding me of our history. But I was determined to include my sister in this significant role, hoping it would show her how much I valued our relationship despite our past conflicts. I wanted to believe people could change, that relationships could heal. So I ignored the warning signs and pressed forward, bringing Allison into the center of my wedding preparations. Finding the perfect wedding dress had been a dream of mine since childhood. I had saved magazine clippings and Pinterest boards full of designs that captured my imagination. I wanted something timeless, yet unique, elegant, but not overly formal. This was the one aspect of my wedding I refused to compromise on. The day of dress shopping arrived with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. My mother, Diane, Jessica, and 3 other bridesmaids joined Allison and me at Bridal Elegance, an upscale boutique in downtown Portland. The shop owner, Elaine, greeted us warmly and led us to a private viewing area with champagne and pastries. From the moment we arrived, Allison began her subtle sabotage. As Elaine brought out dresses matching my described preferences, Allison would interject with suggestions that contradicted everything I had expressed wanting. "I think Bobby would look amazing in something more princess style with a huge skirt," she said, knowing I had specifically mentioned wanting something sleek and fitted. When I emerged from the dressing room in a beautiful sheath dress, Allison was the first to comment. "It makes your shoulders look so broad," she said with fake concern. "And does it come in a more slimming fabric?" My mother shot her a warning look but said nothing. This was her approach to our conflicts. Since childhood's silent disapproval, rather than direct intervention. The third dress I tried was a fitted mermaid style, with delicate lace detailing and a sweetheart neckline. The moment I put it on, I knew it was special. When I walked out to show everyone, the entire room fell silent. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Jessica clasped her hands together in delight. Even Elaine commented that it seemed made for me. Allison's face flickered with something dark before arranging itself into an enthusiastic smile. "It is definitely unique," she said, emphasizing the word in a way that made it sound like a criticism, though I wonder if it might be a little too sexy for a church wedding. I ignored her comment, turning slowly to see the dress from all angles in the 3-way mirror. The ivory lace contrasted beautifully with my skin, and the silhouette accentuated my figure perfectly. The back featured a row of tiny pearl buttons extending down to a small, elegant train. It was everything I had dreamed of. "This is it," I said, my voice breaking slightly with emotion. "This is my dress." My mother came to stand beside me, placing her hands on my shoulders as we both looked at my reflection. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," she whispered. "Your father would have been so proud." Dad had passed away 5 years earlier from a heart attack, and his absence was keenly felt in this moment. I blinked back tears, not wanting to ruin the makeup I had carefully applied that morning. Allison remained seated, her smile fixed in place as she watched our mother and me share this emotional moment. I caught her expression in the mirror, the forced happiness that did not reach her eyes. The dress was significantly over my budget. I had saved for 2 years, putting aside money from every paycheck, but this gown was still nearly $2,000 more than I had planned to spend. After a brief discussion with Logan over the phone, we decided to make it work. We would cut back in other areas. The dress was worth it. As Elaine took my measurements and discussed alterations, Allison wandered around the shop examining other dresses and accessories. When she rejoined us, she seemed distracted, checking her phone frequently and asking when we would be finished. Over the next 2 months, I attended 3 fittings as Elaine and her team perfected the dress to my measurements. Each time I invited Allison, but she only attended the first fitting, claiming work commitments prevented her from joining the others. The final fitting was scheduled for 1 week before the wedding. Due to a last-minute work emergency, I had to attend a conference in Chicago that conflicted with the appointment. After considering my options, I asked Allison if she could pick up the dress after the final alterations were complete. "Of course," she said, seeming almost too eager. "I would be happy to pick it up for you. What are sisters for?" Jessica pulled me aside later that day. "Are you sure that is a good idea? Letting Allison be responsible for your wedding dress?" "She is my sister and my maid of honor," I replied defensively. "I have to trust her sometime. Besides, she has been so helpful with everything else." Jessica looked unconvinced but dropped the subject. "I hope you are right. Just be careful." I brushed off her concerns, convinced that Allison had changed, and that our adult relationship could be different from our childhood. I wanted to believe my sister had outgrown her jealousy and could genuinely be happy for me. I was about to discover how wrong I was. The rehearsal dinner was held at Riverside Gardens, a beautiful venue overlooking the Willamette River. Logan and I had chosen a simple but elegant menu, and the evening was progressing perfectly. Family and friends from both sides were mingling, sharing stories and laughter. Even Allison seemed to be in good spirits, charming Logan's relatives with amusing anecdotes from our childhood carefully edited to exclude our conflicts. As dinner concluded and guests began to disperse into small conversation groups, Allison approached me with a garment bag draped over her arm. "I have a surprise for you," she said, her voice lilting with excitement. "Your dress is here. I picked it up this afternoon as promised." My heart raced with anticipation. After months of fittings and alterations, I would finally see my completed wedding dress ready to be worn down the aisle the next day. "Can I see it now?" I asked, glancing around at the crowded room. Allison nodded enthusiastically. I arranged with the venue to use a private room upstairs. "Mom is already waiting there." "Come on." I followed her up a curved staircase to a small suite typically used for bridal preparations. My mother was indeed waiting along with Jessica and 2 other bridesmaids. The garment bag was carefully laid across a velvet chaise lounge. "Go ahead," Allison urged, a strange glint in her eye that I failed to register in my excitement. "Open it." With trembling fingers, I slowly unzipped the black garment bag. The anticipation of seeing my perfect dress now complete and ready for the most important day of my life made my heart pound. As the zipper reached the bottom, I pulled the sides of the bag apart, expecting to see the elegant ivory lace of my carefully chosen gown. Instead, I found myself staring at a garish sequin dress in shocking pink. It looked like something worn to a nightclub, with a plunging neckline cut out sides and a hem that would barely reach mid-thigh. For several seconds, I could only stare in confusion, my brain unable to process what I was seeing. "This is not my dress." I finally managed my voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean?" Allison asked, her expression concerned but with something else beneath it. "That is what the shop gave me when I went to pick it up." I lifted the dress from the bag, holding it up in disbelief. It was not only completely different from my wedding gown, but it was also cheaply made, the sequins already shedding onto the carpet. "This cannot be happening," I said, panic rising in my chest. "This is not my wedding dress. This is not even a wedding dress." My mother stepped forward, her brow furrowed in confusion. "There must be some mistake." "Allison, did you check the dress before leaving the shop?" "Of course I did," Allison insisted, though her eyes darted away from my mother's gaze. The bag was sealed with the bridal shop sticker. I assumed it was correct. But as she spoke, I caught a slight curl at the corner of her mouth, quickly suppressed. In that instant, I knew. This was no mistake. This was deliberate. "You did this on purpose," I said, my voice suddenly steady with the clarity of realization. "You switched the dresses." Allison's eyes widened with practiced innocence. "How could you say that? Why would I do such a thing?" "Because you have been doing things like this our entire lives," I replied, anger replacing my initial shock. "Because you cannot stand to see me happy." The room fell silent as the other bridesmaids exchanged uncomfortable glances. My mother looked between us, her expression pained. "Girls, please," she said weakly. "This is not the time for accusations. We need to focus on solving the problem." "What problem?" Allison asked, her facade of innocence slipping slightly. "It is just a dress. Bobby can wear this one. It is more her style anyway." Jessica stepped forward, placing a protective arm around my shoulders. "Are you insane? She cannot get married in this nightclub, reject." "Well, the bridal shop is closed now," Allison pointed out, checking her watch with exaggerated concern. "And the wedding is at 11 tomorrow morning. Such a shame." The realization of my situation hit me full force. My wedding was less than 15 hours away. The bridal shop was closed until 9 tomorrow morning, leaving barely enough time to sort this out before the ceremony. Tears welled in my eyes as the perfect wedding I had planned so carefully seemed to crumble before me. "How could you do this to me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I am your sister." "I did not do anything," Allison maintained, but her performance was slipping. The satisfaction in her eyes was becoming more evident as she watched my distress. It must have been a mix-up at the shop. My mother finally seemed to grasp what was happening. "Allison, if you know something about this, you need to tell us right now." "I told you what happened," Allison snapped, dropping the sweet act momentarily. "The shop must have made a mistake. These things happen. Maybe this is a sign that the wedding is not meant to be." That comment broke something inside me. The tears that had been threatening spilled over, and I sank onto the chaise, the ridiculous pink dress clutched in my hands. Years of torment, jealousy, and sabotage culminated in this moment of ultimate betrayal. On the eve of what should have been the happiest day of my life, my own sister had deliberately tried to ruin it. As I sat there crying, surrounded by my concerned mother and friends, a strange calm began to settle over me. Through my tears, I looked at Allison, who was now poorly pretending to comfort me, while barely concealing her satisfaction. In that moment, I realized something important. I had spent my life allowing Allison to manipulate me, to hurt me, to control my emotions. But not this time. Not on my wedding day. I took a deep breath, wiped my eyes, and stood up. "Everyone, please leave the room," I said quietly. "Except Jessica. I need a minute to think." My mother hesitated, looking concerned. "Bobby, are you okay?" "I will be," I assured her. "I just need some space right now." As they filed out, Allison gave me one last glance, a mixture of triumph and fake sympathy on her face. Little did she know her victory would be short-lived, because in that moment I decided that for once I would be the one to turn the tables. As soon as the door closed behind my mother and the other bridesmaids, I turned to Jessica, my mind already racing with possibilities. "Allison did this deliberately," I said, no longer a question but a statement of fact. Jessica nodded grimly. "Of course she did. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" I paced the small room, the ridiculous pink dress tossed aside on the chaise. "I need to call Elaine from the bridal shop," I said, pulling out my cell phone. Thank goodness I saved her personal number after our last conversation about the veil. "Do you think she will answer this late?" Jessica asked, checking her watch. It was already past 9 in the evening. "She has to," I replied, finding the contact in my phone. "This is an emergency." As the phone rang, my mind flashed back to a childhood memory. I was 12 and Allison was 9. She had hidden my shoes before an important school presentation, thinking I would miss it entirely. Instead, I had borrowed my mother's shoes, stuffed the toes with tissue paper, and made it to school on time. The look on Allison's face, when I returned home with an A on my presentation, was something I had never forgotten. It was the first time I had outsmarted her sabotage, and it had felt incredible. To my immense relief, Elaine answered on the 4th ring. "Bobby, is everything all right? It is rather late." "Elaine, I am so sorry to bother you, but I have an emergency," I explained quickly. "My sister was supposed to pick up my wedding dress today, but there has been a problem. Instead of my dress, I have a completely different one." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "That is impossible," Elaine said slowly. "Your sister never came to pick up your dress. It is still here at the shop." The pieces instantly fell into place. "She never picked it up." "No," Elaine confirmed. I was surprised, actually. I expected her this afternoon as arranged, but she never showed up. I tried calling your alternate contact number, but no one answered. A surge of relief washed over me. My dress was safe. Allison had fabricated the entire scenario, bringing her own decoy dress to create the illusion of a mix-up. "Elaine, I cannot thank you enough for telling me this. Is there any way at all that I could come pick up the dress tonight? My wedding is tomorrow morning." Another pause. "Well, this is highly irregular," she began. "Please," I begged. "My sister tried to sabotage my wedding. I cannot explain everything now, but I really need your help." Something in my desperate tone must have convinced her. "All right," she conceded. "I can meet you at the shop in 30 minutes. But just you understand, I am making an exception because you have been such a lovely client." Thank you," I exclaimed, relief flooding through me. "I will be there. And Elaine, please do not mention this to anyone else if they call asking about the dress." After ending the call, I turned to Jessica with newfound determination. The dress is still at the shop. Allison never picked it up. She brought this monstrosity herself, I said, gesturing to the pink sequin dress. That manipulative little, Jessica began, but I cut her off. We need to be smart about this, I said, my mind working quickly. Allison cannot know that I know the truth. Not yet. What do you have in mind? Jessica asked, a slow smile spreading across her face as she recognized the gleam in my eye. I need to sneak out of here without Allison noticing. Can you create a diversion? Tell everyone I am too upset and need some time alone. Then meet me at the side entrance in 5 minutes with your car. Jessica nodded, already moving toward the door. Consider it done. What about your mom? I hesitated. I hated keeping secrets from my mother, but involving her now would only complicate things. Do not tell her yet. I do not want to create more family drama before the wedding. I will explain everything afterward. Once Jessica left, I quickly composed myself, splashing cold water on my face in the adjoining bathroom and taking several deep breaths. I needed to appear devastated, but resigned when I faced the others again. The success of my plan depended on Allison believing she had won. I rejoined the group downstairs, briefly putting on a performance of my own. I think I need some air, I said, my voice deliberately shaky. Jessica is going to take me for a short drive to clear my head. Allison frowned slightly. Do you want me to come with you? I am your maid of honor after all. No, I replied, perhaps too quickly. I just need some space right now. But thank you for trying to help with the dress situation. I am sure we will figure something out tomorrow morning. The frown disappeared, replaced by poorly concealed satisfaction. Of course, try not to worry too much. You will be a beautiful bride no matter what you wear. The condescension in her voice strengthened my resolve. I hugged my mother goodbye, promising to call her later, and slipped out with Jessica to her waiting car. The drive to the bridal shop took 15 minutes. During that time, Jessica and I formulated the rest of our plan. By the time we arrived, it was fully formed and perfect in its simplicity. Elaine was waiting for us, looking slightly annoyed at being called out so late, but softening when she saw my obvious distress. Inside the darkened shop, illuminated only by a few strategic lights, she led us to the back room, where my real wedding dress hung in pristine condition. Here it is, she said, unzipping the garment bag to reveal the ivory lace gown I had fallen in love with months ago, perfectly altered and ready for your big day. Seeing the dress, my dress brought tears to my eyes again, but this time from relief and determination rather than despair. Elaine, I said, taking her hands in mine, I need to ask you one more favor. Can you help me with something tomorrow morning? As I explained my plan, Elaine's initial reluctance gave way to amused approval. Your sister really did this, she asked, shaking her head in disbelief. She has been doing things like this our entire lives, I replied. But this is the last time. By the time we left the shop an hour later, everything was arranged. I had my real dress safely hidden in Jessica's trunk, under a pile of blankets and a decoy plan that would ensure Allison never suspected until the perfect moment of revelation. Returning to the hotel where the wedding party was staying, I maintained my facade of resigned acceptance. When Allison asked where I had been for so long, I told her Jessica and I had been driving around looking for any open formal wear stores without success. I guess I will have to find something in my closet that could work, I said with a heavy sigh. Maybe that white cocktail dress from Christmas. Allison's smile was quick and victorious. That would be pretty, she said, not meaning it at all. Very unconventional. Sometimes conventional is overrated, I replied, giving her a smile that should have warned her. But Allison, so caught up in her own triumph, missed the determination in my eyes. That night, while Allison slept soundly in her hotel room, satisfied with her sabotage, Jessica and 2 other trusted bridesmaids helped me prepare the final details of our counterplan. By the time I finally went to sleep in the early hours of the morning, everything was ready. For once, I would be the sister who had the last laugh. I awoke on my wedding day with a mixture of nervous excitement and grim determination. Sunlight streamed through the hotel room curtains, illuminating the space I had shared with Jessica, rather than staying alone as originally planned. After last night's events, I wanted my best friend close by. Today is the day, Jessica said, already awake and scrolling through her phone. Operation Turn the Tables is in effect. I smiled, stretching and reaching for my own phone to check the time. 8 o'clock. 3 hours until the ceremony. Perfect. Has Elaine confirmed everything on her end? I asked, sitting up and pushing my hair from my face. Jessica nodded. Just got her text. All set. The plan was simple but required precise timing and acting skills I had not known I possessed. The real wedding dress was currently with Elaine, who would bring it directly to the church, bypassing Allison completely. Meanwhile, I would pretend to have found a last-minute replacement dress, actually a plain white evening gown Jessica had in her closet. This would be our decoy. A knock at the door signaled the arrival of the makeup artist and hairstylist. As they set up their equipment, my mother called to check in. "How are you feeling this morning, sweetheart?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "I was so worried about you last night." "I am okay, Mom," I assured her. "Jessica helped me find a solution. Not ideal, but it will work." "I still cannot believe the bridal shop made such a terrible mistake," she said, buying the story Allison had crafted. "I have a mind to sue them afterward." "Let us just get through today," I replied, not wanting to reveal the truth yet. "Everything happens for a reason, right?" After finishing the call, I sent a quick text to the 2 bridesmaids who were in on the plan, confirming their roles. Then I settled in for hair and makeup, maintaining a carefully crafted demeanor of someone making the best of a disappointing situation. Allison arrived an hour later, already dressed in her maid of honor gown, a flattering navy blue that complemented her figure perfectly. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo, and her makeup was flawless. She looked beautiful, which only highlighted the cruelty of her attempting to deny me the same on my wedding day. "Good morning, bride-to-be," she sang out, her voice sickeningly sweet. "How are you feeling today?" "Better than expected," I replied calmly. "Jessica had a white dress I can borrow. Not exactly bridal, but it will do." A flicker of disappointment crossed Allison's face before she masked it with sympathy. "Oh, that is wonderful. See, everything works out." She settled into a chair, watching as the hairstylist worked on my updo. I could feel her eyes on me, searching for signs of distress or tears. I gave her nothing, maintaining a serene expression that seemed to unsettle her slightly. "You seem awfully calm," she observed after a while. "I thought you would be more upset about the dress situation." I shrugged, meeting her eyes in the mirror. What good would that do? Besides, marrying Logan is what matters, not what I am wearing. This was not the reaction she had anticipated. I could see confusion replacing satisfaction in her expression. She had expected tears, drama, possibly even a postponed wedding. My calm acceptance was throwing her off balance. As the morning progressed, Allison grew increasingly agitated by my composure. She made several attempts to remind me of the dress disaster, each time being met with my peaceful acceptance and focus on other aspects of the wedding. The photographer arrived to capture getting ready moments, and I posed happily with my bridesmaids, showing no signs of the bride in crisis Allison had hoped for. "Where is this replacement dress?" Allison finally asked, her tone betraying her frustration. "Should not we be getting you into it soon?" "Jessica is bringing it up in a few minutes," I replied. "We had to steam out some wrinkles." On cue, Jessica entered with a garment bag. "Your dress awaits, Mrs. Almost Wagner," she announced cheerfully. Allison immediately approached, trying to peek inside the bag. "Let me help you get ready." "As your maid of honor?" "It is my duty." "Actually," I said, intercepting her smoothly, "I would like a few minutes alone before I put it on. Kind of a private bridal moment, you know." Her brow furrowed. "But I always help you get dressed. Remember prom graduation?" "This is different," I insisted gently, but firmly. "Just give me 15 minutes. Then you can come back and help with the finishing touches." Reluctantly, Allison allowed herself to be ushered out along with the other bridesmaids and my mother. Only Jessica remained, quickly locking the door behind them. "She is suspicious," Jessica whispered. "Did you see her face?" "Good," I replied, unzipping the garment bag to reveal the plain white evening dress that would serve as our decoy. "That means the plan is working." We had exactly 12 minutes to execute the next phase. Jessica helped me into the decoy dress, which fit well enough but was clearly not a wedding gown. Then she draped a large, opaque garment cover over it, one that would completely hide the dress beneath but give the impression I was already fully dressed. "Perfect," I said, examining the effect in the mirror. The cover revealed nothing of the dress underneath. "Now, call Elaine and make sure she is in position." A quick phone conversation confirmed that Elaine had arrived at the church with my real wedding dress and was waiting in the private bride's room as arranged. Everything was going according to plan. When Allison returned 15 minutes later, she found me standing in the middle of the room wearing the garment cover, Jessica adjusting my hair one last time. "You are already dressed," Allison asked, clearly disappointed at having missed seeing my reaction to wearing the inadequate replacement. "Yes, all set," I replied brightly. "What do you think of the veil?" "We found it in Jessica's emergency kit." I deliberately redirected her attention to the simple tulle veil we had attached to my updo, preventing her from focusing too much on the covered dress. "It is nice," she said half-heartedly, still trying to discern the shape of the dress beneath the cover. "Are you sure you do not want to show everyone the dress before we leave for the church?" "I think I will keep it a surprise for everyone," I replied, "even Mom. It builds the anticipation. Do not you think—" Allison looked increasingly uncertain. This was not following her script at all. By now, I should have been tearfully walking down the aisle in a completely inappropriate dress, humiliated before our family and friends. Instead, I seemed mysteriously confident and in control. As we prepared to depart for the church, I noticed Allison checking her phone frequently, her brow furrowed with concern. "Is everything okay?" I asked innocently. "Fine," she snapped then, quickly composed herself. "Just checking the time. We should get going." The bridal party traveled to the church in 2 separate cars. I rode with Jessica and 2 bridesmaids, while Allison accompanied my mother and the others. During the short drive, I finally allowed my excitement to show. "I cannot believe we are pulling this off," I said, grinning at Jessica. "Did you see her face? She knows something is wrong but cannot figure out what." "The best part is yet to come," Jessica reminded me. "Are you ready for the grand revelation?" "I have been ready for this moment my entire life," I replied, thinking not just of the dress switch but of finally standing up to my sister's lifelong pattern of sabotage. Let Operation Turn the Tables commence. The church was a historic building with beautiful stained glass windows and a long center aisle perfect for a dramatic bridal entrance. Upon arrival, we slipped in through a side door to avoid being seen by early guests. The bridal party was directed to a large waiting room, while I was escorted to a smaller private room where Elaine was waiting with my real wedding dress. "You made it," she exclaimed, helping me quickly remove the garment cover and the decoy dress beneath. "Hurry, we only have about 20 minutes before the ceremony begins." With practiced efficiency, Elaine helped me into my actual wedding gown, the beautiful ivory lace creation I had fallen in love with months ago. The dress fit perfectly, each tiny pearl button fastened with care along the back. When I finally stood before the mirror, the transformation was complete. "You look absolutely stunning," Elaine said, stepping back to admire her handiwork. "Your sister is going to be shocked." "That is the plan," I replied, smoothing the delicate fabric and taking a deep breath. "Thank you for everything, Elaine. I could not have done this without you." A light knock at the door signaled Jessica's arrival. "Everyone is in position," she reported, then gasped when she saw me. "Oh my God, Bobby, you look incredible." "Is Allison suspicious?" I asked, adjusting my veil one last time. "Definitely," Jessica confirmed. "She keeps asking where you are and why you needed a separate room. I told her you were having a moment of bridal jitters and needed space. She is about to walk down the aisle with the other bridesmaids. Your mother is already seated." "Perfect," I said, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "Let us put this garment cover back on for one last deception." Jessica helped me drape the opaque cover over my dress again, completely concealing it from view. This would be the final piece of misdirection before the big reveal. When I rejoined the bridal party in the main waiting area, Allison immediately approached me, her expression a mixture of concern and suspicion. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "We are about to start." "Just needed a moment alone," I replied calmly. "Pre-wedding meditation?" She glanced at the garment cover I still wore, clearly frustrated at not being able to see the dress beneath. Should not you take that off now? The ceremony is about to begin. I will remove it right before I walk down the aisle, I assured her. Do not worry about it. The wedding coordinator appeared, signaling it was time to begin. One by one, the bridesmaids lined up with Allison at the front as maid of honor. She gave me one last questioning look before the doors opened and the procession began. I watched from behind as Allison walked down the aisle, her posture perfect, her navy blue dress flowing elegantly. Despite everything, she looked beautiful, and for a brief moment, I felt a pang of sadness for what our relationship could have been without the jealousy and competition. As the last bridesmaid disappeared through the doors, I quickly removed the garment cover, revealing my true wedding dress underneath. The coordinator gasped softly. You look beautiful, she whispered. Are you ready? I nodded, taking my bouquet of white roses and eucalyptus. My mother's cousin George, who had agreed to walk me down the aisle in my father's absence, appeared at my side, his eyes widening at the sight of my dress. Bobby, you look stunning, he said. But I thought there was some problem with your dress. It has been resolved, I replied with a smile. Just wait and see. The wedding march began, and the doors reopened. As George and I stepped into the doorway, a collective gasp rose from the assembled guests. I scanned the church, taking in the shocked and delighted faces of our friends and family. Logan stood at the altar, his expression one of pure adoration, as he saw me in the dress we had chosen together. But the reaction I was waiting for was at the front of the church, where the bridesmaids stood in a neat line. Allison's face had drained of all color. Her mouth hung open in shock, her eyes wide with disbelief, as she took in the sight of me in my real wedding dress, the one she had tried to prevent me from wearing. The walk down the aisle seemed to last both an eternity and mere seconds. I kept my eyes primarily on Logan, the man I was about to marry, but I could not help noticing Allison's expression shifting from shock to confusion to dawning horror as she realized her plan had completely backfired. When I reached the altar, Logan took my hands in his, leaning close to whisper, "You are breathtaking. Is that the dress you were worried about?" "I will explain everything later," I whispered back, squeezing his hands gratefully. Throughout the ceremony, I remained focused on Logan and the commitment we were making to each other. This day was about our love, not about my sister's jealousy. Yet I could not help being aware of Allison's rigid posture beside me, the tension radiating from her as she struggled to maintain her composure. The exchange of vows went perfectly, each word spoken with genuine emotion and commitment. When Logan slipped the wedding band onto my finger, I felt a sense of peace and rightness that transcended the drama of the previous night. This was what mattered most. After being pronounced husband and wife, we walked back down the aisle together, greeted by cheers and applause from our guests. The formal recessional complete, we were directed to a small private room for a moment alone before the photographs began. We had barely closed the door when it burst open again, revealing Allison, her face flushed with anger and humiliation. "How did you do it?" she demanded, without preamble. "That dress was supposed to be gone." Logan looked between us in confusion. "What is going on?" "Your new sister-in-law tried to sabotage our wedding," I explained calmly. "She never picked up my real dress from the shop. Instead, she brought a hideous pink nightclub dress and pretended there had been a mix-up." Allison's face contorted with rage. "You had no right to go behind my back. You made me look like a fool." "You made yourself look like a fool," I corrected her. "And you have been doing things like this our entire lives. Did you really think I would let you ruin my wedding day?" "I was just trying to." "To what?" I interrupted. "To humiliate me, to ruin the most important day of my life. Why, Allison? Why do you always need to hurt me?" Before she could answer, the door opened again, revealing my mother and Jessica. From their expressions, it was clear they had heard at least part of the exchange. "What is going on here?" my mother asked, looking between us with growing understanding. "Allison, what have you done?" In the face of witnesses, Allison's anger crumbled, replaced by defensive tears. "It was just a joke," she tried weakly. I was going to tell her eventually. When Jessica challenged, "After she walked down the aisle in that trashy dress you brought, after everyone had seen her looking ridiculous on her wedding day," my mother stepped forward, her expression more serious than I had ever seen it. Allison, I need you to tell me the truth right now. Did you deliberately try to sabotage your sister's wedding dress? Under our mother's stern gaze, Allison finally broke. You do not understand, she said, tears streaming down her face. It is always about Bobby, always has been. The perfect daughter, the successful one, the one getting married to the perfect guy. What about me? When is it ever my turn? The raw pain in her voice was startling. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy. Not enough to excuse her actions, but enough to recognize the hurt beneath them. This was not the way to handle those feelings, my mother said firmly. What you did was cruel and selfish. Allison looked at each of us, seeming to realize she had no allies in this room. Fine, she said finally. I admit it. I tried to ruin your precious dress. But clearly I failed. So congratulations on outsmarting me. I hope you and Logan are very happy together. The bitterness in her tone was unmistakable. Without waiting for a response, she turned and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. An uncomfortable silence followed her departure. Logan wrapped a supportive arm around my waist, while my mother looked torn between going after Allison and staying with me. You should check on her, I said to my mother, recognizing her dilemma. Make sure she does not do anything else impulsive. My mother nodded gratefully. I am so sorry, sweetheart. I had no idea she would go this far. After she left, Jessica grimaced. So much for keeping family drama out of the wedding. It is okay, I assured her and Logan. At least the truth is out now, and I still got to wear my real dress. You look absolutely beautiful in it, Logan said, kissing my forehead. And incredibly clever for figuring out how to save the day. The wedding coordinator poked her head in, reminding us that guests were waiting for photographs. Taking a deep breath, I pushed thoughts of Allison aside. This was still my wedding day, and I refused to let her actions overshadow it any further. Let us go take some pictures, I said, taking Logan's hand, with or without my maid of honor. As we rejoined our guests, I scanned the crowd for Allison, but saw no sign of her. Part of me was relieved, while another part worried what her next move might be. But for now, surrounded by the love of my new husband and our friends and family, I chose to focus on the celebration rather than the confrontation. The wedding reception was held in a beautifully decorated ballroom adjacent to the church. Fairy lights twinkled from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the white floral centerpieces and gold-accented table settings. As Logan and I made our entrance as husband and wife, the room erupted in cheers and applause. For that perfect moment, the drama with Allison seemed distant and unimportant. But as we moved through the reception, greeting guests and accepting congratulations, I could not help noticing the empty seat at the head table where my sister should have been. Despite everything she had done, her absence left a hollow feeling in my chest. Logan sensed my distraction during our first dance. Are you thinking about Allison? He asked softly as we swayed to our chosen song. I should be furious with her, I admitted. And I am, but I am also sad. This is not how I wanted today to go. You have every right to be angry, Logan assured me. What she did was inexcusable. I know, I sighed, but she is still my sister, the only one I will ever have. As the reception continued, I found myself torn between enjoying my perfect day and worrying about Allison. My mother had returned to the reception alone, explaining that Allison had decided to go back to the hotel claiming a migraine. We both knew it was an excuse, but there was little to be done about it now. During the father-daughter dance, which I shared with my uncle instead, I caught sight of a familiar figure slipping in through a side door. Allison had returned looking subdued in her navy blue dress, her makeup freshly applied, but her eyes still showing signs of earlier tears. She stayed at the periphery of the celebration, avoiding direct interaction with the bridal party. I decided to give her space, focusing instead on cutting the cake with Logan and participating in the various reception traditions. It was during the bouquet toss, nearly 3 hours into the reception, that something unexpected happened. As I prepared to throw my bouquet to the assembled single women, I turned to see Allison standing hesitantly at the edge of the group. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away, but not before I caught the complex mixture of emotions on her face: regret, shame, and something like longing. In that split second, I made a decision. Instead of tossing the bouquet randomly, I aimed directly at Allison. The white roses arced through the air and landed squarely in her surprised hands. A cheer went up from the crowd, unaware of the significance of the moment. Allison looked down at the bouquet, then back at me, confusion evident in her expression. I gave her a small nod, a silent acknowledgement that despite everything, she was still my sister. Later, as guests mingled and danced, Allison approached me while Logan was busy talking with his college friends. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly, her usual confidence nowhere to be seen. "Somewhere private?" I hesitated only briefly before agreeing. We slipped out onto a small balcony overlooking the garden, the evening air cool against my skin. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Allison took a deep breath. "I am sorry," she said, the words seeming to physically pain her. "What I did was wrong. Unforgivable, really." "Why did you do it?" I asked, not accusingly but genuinely wanting to understand. "We are adults now, Allison. This is not like ruining my science project in 4th grade." "I do not know if I can explain it in a way that makes sense," she replied, looking out at the darkened garden rather than at me. "When you got engaged, it was like something broke inside me. All I could think was, of course Bobby gets the perfect guy and the perfect life. She always gets everything first." "That is not true," I protested. "It feels true to me," she countered. "You were always the smart one, the pretty one, the one everyone adored, Dad's favorite. Mom's pride and joy." "You were just as smart and just as pretty," I said. "You just chose to use those gifts differently." "By sabotaging you at every turn," she laughed bitterly. "Not exactly the best use of my talents." "No," I agreed. "It was not." We fell silent again, the music from the reception filtering out to where we stood. When Marcus broke up with me, Allison finally continued. "He said something that has been haunting me. He said I was too focused on competing with you to build anything real with him. He said I measured everything in my life against yours instead of finding my own path." I was surprised by her candor. This level of self-awareness was new for Allison. "Do you think he was right?" I asked gently. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes again. "I think I have been doing it my whole life, defining myself as not Bobby, instead of just being Allison. I never wanted that kind of relationship," I told her. "I always wished we could be friends as well as sisters." "I know," she admitted. "That almost made it worse. You would try to include me and I would reject you, then feel resentful when you stopped trying." She shook her head. "It is a mess inside my brain sometimes." "The dress stunt was taking things too far," I said firmly. "You need to understand that." "I do," she said quickly. "I do understand. When I saw you walking down the aisle in your real dress looking so beautiful and happy, something shifted. I suddenly saw myself through everyone else's eyes and I was ashamed." "Good," I replied, not unkindly. "That is the first step to changing." "How did you do it?" she asked. "How did you get the real dress?" I explained the events of the previous night, how Jessica and I had discovered the truth and orchestrated the counterplan. By the end of my explanation, Allison was shaking her head in reluctant admiration. "You always were smarter than me," she said. "Not smarter," I corrected. "Just more focused on building things up rather than tearing them down." Allison absorbed this, nodding slowly. "I want to be different," she said after a moment. "I do not want to be that person anymore, the one who hurts people out of jealousy." "Then do not be," I said simply. "It is your choice, Allison. It always has been." "Can you ever forgive me?" she asked, finally meeting my eyes directly. "After everything I have done?" I considered her question seriously. The easy answer would be yes, to smooth things over as I had done so many times before. But that pattern had not served either of us well. "I think forgiveness has to be earned," I said carefully. "And trust even more so. I cannot just pretend this never happened. But I am willing to try building a new relationship with you one step at a time if you are genuinely committed to changing." It was not the unconditional absolution she might have hoped for, but it was honest. To my surprise, Allison seemed to appreciate the honesty. "That is fair," she acknowledged. "More than fair, actually." "We should get back to the reception," I said, noticing Logan looking for me through the glass doors. "People will wonder where the bride disappeared to." As we turned to go back inside, Allison stopped me with a light touch on my arm. "Thank you," she said, "for the bouquet. You did not have to do that." No, I agreed. I did not. But maybe that is what being a sister really means. Doing things you do not have to do because you care anyway. We rejoined the reception, and to everyone's surprise, Allison requested the DJ play a special song, one we had danced to as children in our parents' living room. She asked me to dance with her, and in that moment awkwardly swaying with my sister in the middle of my wedding reception. I felt the first genuine connection we had shared in years. The reception continued late into the night, ending with Logan and me departing amid a shower of rose petals. As we drove away to begin our honeymoon, I found myself reflecting on the unexpected journey of the past 24 hours. What had begun as a deliberate act of sabotage had transformed into an opportunity for growth and possibly healing. I had no illusions that one emotional conversation would fix decades of complicated feelings between Allison and me. But it was a crack in the wall that had separated us for so long. 1 year later, as Logan and I celebrated our first anniversary, Allison joined us for dinner, bringing her new boyfriend and a gift, a framed photo of us dancing at the wedding reception sisters, despite everything. Our relationship was still a work in progress, with occasional tensions and old habits sometimes resurfacing. But we were trying, both of us, to build something new from the ruins of our past conflicts. I learned important lessons from the wedding dress incident. I learned that standing up for myself did not mean destroying the other person. I learned that forgiveness does not require forgetting. Most importantly, I learned that family relationships are complex and imperfect, requiring continuous effort and honest communication to thrive. So, if you find yourself dealing with a difficult family member, remember my story. Sometimes you need to draw clear boundaries. Sometimes you need to outsmart their sabotage. But always leave room for the possibility of change and growth, because in the end, the tables we turn might lead us to a better place than we ever imagined possible. Have you ever had to deal with a jealous family member who tried to sabotage an important moment in your life? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found value in my story, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening, and remember that even the most difficult relationships can sometimes find a path to healing.